My name is Rutledge. I am the CEO of Rutledge.com, the creator of the Rutledge Perspective podcast, and now I am the host of the Rutledge Perspective on KCOH-TV, The Boost, and I am so excited. My background in human resources and also in business and consulting has given me the opportunity to share information with all of you, and what we're going to do is talk about the foundational pieces, whether or not you're building a business or you're building a career. It all comes down to strategy and people. If you don't know where you're going, how do you know who needs to be on your team? So please join me, join in the conversation, catch the show both on the radio, on the app, and also on Facebook. And I will be on Tuesdays from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Thank you so much for listening. I look forward to seeing you there.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Carlsbad, California. It's Tuesday. It's a good day because it's Tuesday. And I get to spend Tuesday with you guys. So I'm really excited to be here. Today we're going to be talking about the power of the pause. Remember, I told you guys November, we're talking about power. Next week, we're going to talk about speaking truth to power. But this week, we're talking about the power of the pause. But before I do that, still got some public service announcements because that's what we do here on the Rutledge Perspective. So, you see, I still have on my vote pin, y'all. That's because it is not over yet. We still have some runoff elections in Georgia. Georgia, come through, Georgia. You have to register. So there are some folks who will have turned 18 between now and the January 5th runoff election that get a chance to now register to vote in Georgia. So you have to register by December the 7th, 12th. The 14th of December is when in-person early voting begins. December 14th. This is in Georgia. And then the election day is January 5th. So we are still in this, y'all. We're still in this. So it's not over. And last week was a crazy week. And we're going to be talking about power and practicing the power of the pause because it's important. I think we all need to pause a minute. Another few announcements. So I am so grateful and so excited. I have almost 3,000 downloads of the Rutledge Perspective podcast. So I would love for you guys. I know. Thank you, Jerry. It's so awesome. So please. I'm even on Amazon Music, y'all. So you can find my podcast on Amazon Music. It's called the Rutledge Perspective Podcast. And it looks just like my little picture right here. So you can see that pink picture. So it looks just like that right now. I am getting new pictures in December, y'all. So new pictures coming, I promise. So the podcast now has 2,957 downloads. I'd really like to be at 5,000 by end of the year.
You can do it.
So help me out, y'all. Please go download, go listen, go give me comments, go give me a like, give me a star, give me something. It's on all the platforms. Apple, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Blueberry, whatever that is, Deezer. I'm even in, I think it's called Ghana, which is an Indian streaming. And so thank you, India. Thank you, Australia. Thank you, France. Thank you, Spain. All of these folks that are still listening. US, of course. Thank you so much for tuning in. I've even got folks in Brazil. So please. And it made me remember I've got to get on my Spanish and French so I can actually do the podcast in Spanish and French for you guys. So 2,957 downloads, going for 5,000 by 12/31. So y'all help me out. Also, I am revamping my website. So when you go to laurelrutledge.com, I mean, it's fine. And it's, the colors are fine, but it just needs to be more me. It's very corporate, which is, where I came from, but I need it more heart for me. So we're redoing my site. So look for that. I'll be making some announcements about the new site for you guys to go visit that. And the radio show. I cannot believe, Jerry, we've been doing this long.
This long.
Let's see, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November. This is 8 months.
Yeah. Isn't it?
Yeah, 8 months. So, So, and if Jerry says the same, then I'll still be going in 2021, y'all. So, because I love it, and I love spending time with y'all, and I love being on the radio. So, thank you for tuning in. Please pass on the show, KCOH Radio TV, The Boost, the Rutledge Perspective at 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Central on Tuesdays. Please join me. Love having you here. So, and I'll be talking about something called gratitude rewards, but not yet. I got to get a little bit more information, and I want to put that out there for you guys, especially you guys that are business owners, small business owners. This is a really cool thing for you. So I'm going to be talking about that probably next week, and I'll give you a little bit more information. So please, please, please think about that. Also going to be looking for some grants and potentially some sponsors for 2021. So just hit me up. I tell you what, send me a like, send me a comment, and then we can have a conversation. All right? Okie doke. So I think that's all of the PSAs for this week. So let's start talking about the power of the pause. So, good morning, Houston. Good morning, Texas. I love when Texas is on. And do we have our St. Louis folks on this morning?
St. Louis is on. New York is on. Detroit
awesome.
Is on.
Good morning. Oh, Detroit.
Yes, Detroit.
Good morning.
On.
Detroit.
Germany's on.
So, and who?
Germany.
And Germany. Good morning, Germany. Okay, so the power of the pause. I really had to think about this because last week was incredible. Last week was tough. Last week was hard. Last week was, you name it, and that's what last week was. And at one point, you know, when we first got into this pandemic and we first got into how we were all going to make it through this craziness that's happening all around us, election or no election, just so much madness happening. And we talked a lot about leadership and what it means to show up as a leader and how, you know, leaders show up when times are tough. Leaders are calm. Leaders are the calm in the storm. Leaders are the ones that still come every day, and you're coming authentically. And we also talked about the fact that you have to find a way to continue to be clear. It is not unkind to be clear. And you have to still be you. The other thing we have talked about in terms of the pandemic is not panicking, right? You don't want to panic. You want to be calm. You want to take time for yourself. And that's where I thought about the power of the pause. Because that word power that we're talking about all November, I love that, November. Somebody posted that. This is the month of November, saying no to stuff. The power in the pause is that sometimes you need to take a minute. And I was actually supposed to be somewhere last week with some ladies that I really enjoy spending time with and that are really supportive and all that kind of stuff, a mastermind group that I'm in. And I just couldn't do it, y'all. I could not do it. I knew I was not going to be able to show up fully me. I wasn't going to be able to be engaged the way I like to be engaged because there was just too much on my mind, on my heart, on my spirit, all that kind of stuff. I just wasn't going to be able to do it. And so I just realized I wasn't close to the mic. So hopefully y'all been able to hear me. Yeah. So I decided not to go. I just decided not to go. And while I think people fundamentally understood that, there was also some feedback I got around, hey, you know, but it's really important to surround yourself with people who are going to lift you up. And it's really important for you to continue to show up as a leader. And all of those things are true. All of those things are true. And if you are going to be able to show up authentically as the leader that you are, sometimes you need to take a minute. Mm-hmm. You need to know yourself enough. You need to know how you want to show up enough. You need to be aware enough of who you are and how you are that if you need a minute, you need to take a minute. And you need to have enough courage to say, I'm going to practice the pause right now. I'm just going to put a pause on this because I know that I am not going to be able to serve in the best way possible because I just don't have it in me right now. And we are all able and capable and willing and deserving of a pause. All of us. And leaders, if you don't give yourself the opportunity to take a pause, your people are recognizing that they don't get to take one either because they're watching you. Remember, we've talked about that. Mm-hmm. People listen to what you say, but they believe what you do. And if you never take a minute, if you never take time off, if you continuously show up and then you're tired and you're irritable and you're frustrated and you're not engaging with them the way you normally do, you're not listening the way you normally do, you're not as patient as you normally are, people see that behavior. And so it is important for you to give yourself the opportunity to just pause. Practice the pause. What's even more important now, and Jerry and I were just talking about this before the show started, I fundamentally, in my core, am unapologetically insistent upon truth and facts and data. Unapologetically. Even when that information is contrary to my own perspective. Even when it's contrary, y'all. I am just unapologetic. We're going to tell the truth on the Rutledge Perspective. When I was in leadership positions, we are going to tell the truth. We're going to talk next week about speaking truth to power. We are going to tell the truth. Now, we may decide to make a decision that is contrary to facts, but we are going to know that that's what we're doing. And so the thing about that, and the reason I bring that up, is because right now, with everything that is going on, we all need to take a time out. We need to pause. People are hot. People are upset. People are devastated. People are not understanding what's going on. People are still trying to keep their energy going, trying to keep the fight up, because the fight's not over. It will get crazier before it gets better. I just need y'all to be ready. That's just the truth. It's going to get crazier before it gets better. But here's the thing about practicing the pause. If you will recall situations that you've been, well, let me take one that's even simpler. When you think about relationships between men and women, one of the things that you hear all the time is that men telling other men, hey, when she stops fighting and gets quiet, you need to be concerned. When she's quiet, that's a problem, right? Well, here's the thing about that from a leadership perspective. When you are going at it, right, even if it's a heated discussion, there's something going on, notice those situations, whether you were in a classroom, whether you were talking to parents or other authority figures, and people are just going at it, right? Just going at it. But when that one person decides, you know what, I'm going to take this down. I'm just not going to respond to that, or I'm just going to shut it and walk away. That gets more attention than the yelling and screaming, because people tune that out. People tune out the noise. Yeah. But when you have to you almost have to physically strain when people get quiet, right? You want to hear what they're saying. When your parents got really close to you, I remember there was a JCPenney downtown in Odessa, Texas. It was a 2-story. You go up the stairs, they had all the clothes on the little racks. And so my brother and I used to play in the racks. We weren't the only ones. Kids did that all the time, right? You play in the racks, and then you get in trouble. And my mom would grab you right under here, right under your arm, where it's real sensitive, and she'd pinch you, and she'd get real close to your face and say, don't make me hurt you, right? Or she'd say, don't make me take you out of the store. So she wasn't yelling, she wasn't screaming, because the more she said, come back, stop that, you just keep going. Yeah. But when it gets quiet, it's serious. So by practicing the pause, you are giving yourself time to be quiet and to listen. So right now, there is so much stuff going on, most with no fact behind it, y'all. So again, go back and research and find out the facts. So many people were upset. Oh my gosh, now we got this president-elect, the oil business is going to go down. We're never going to have oil. They're going away. We're not going to do fracking. I need y'all to practice the pause. I need you to pause. Our entire infrastructure is built on fossil fuels, people. Yeah. It's not going away tomorrow. I need you to just calm down. And here's the thing. I was talking to my brother about this morning. Here's the deal. It's not going away, but it is not unending. The resources are not unending. They can be depleted. And so unless you are an organization that wants to go the way of Motorola and Polaroid and RCA and, the BlackBerry, it is in your best interest as an organization to be on the side of innovation. And if you will think about it, my brother pointed this out to me this morning. I'm like, you know what? You are so right. While I still call it big oil, gas, big chem, all that kind of stuff. If you notice, they're all calling themselves energy companies now. They're not calling themselves oil companies.
You're right, girl.
They're not calling themselves gas companies. So like, you know what? You are right. Because they have been investing in this stuff for a long time. So all of you who think that they haven't been, I need you to wake up. I need you to go get on those investor calls. Anyone can listen to an investor call, y'all. Get on a company's website, go to investor relations. You can find out when the investor calls are. Because most likely, even if you have a 401k where you're just in Vanguard or Fidelity or whoever, you have got stock in one of the big oil companies, which means you're a stockholder, which means you can listen to the investment calls. Go listen to an investment call. Go read an annual report. This is about education. On the Rutledge Perspective, we talk about getting data and getting information. Go listen to an investor call. These folks are investing in clean energy, in renewable energy. They've already been doing it. They're investing in technology because they don't want to be left behind. So for those of you who think that is not happening, I need you to go get some data. I need you to go read. I need you to practice the pause. It is not going away tomorrow. They are not taking away oil and gas tomorrow. Everything we touch, all the plastic, something has got petroleum in it.
Yeah.
Okay? So it's not going away tomorrow. We're too dependent upon it. But people are, on the innovation side, looking for other alternatives. And there are other alternatives that are renewable. And it is in the best interest of these organizations, if they want to be going concerns for decades, to be on the cutting edge of that innovation. Because if you are leading it, you get to have a say in it, as opposed to just trying to catch up. So pause and get information. Because if you pause, you also get a chance to take your blood pressure down.
Yeah.
You get a chance to get clear. You get a chance to breathe. You get a chance to manage your emotions. Because when you're emotional, you can't hear. When you're emotional, you can't process as well. And so you need to take a pause and go get some information. And then when you get information, if you still have the same opinion, okay, that's fine. Own that. Or be courageous enough and mature enough to adjust it based on new information. And that I mean getting information that is broad, not just information that you already know is going to support your position. Because while that's important, if you're making an argument, yeah, you need information that's going to support the position of the argument you're trying to make. But people who are great debaters, people who are really good at getting their point across, actually know as much, if not more, about the other side of the argument as they do about their own. Because you need to be able to discuss the differences and why something is right or why something is wrong. And the only way to do that is to understand both sides, or at least to have some information on both sides. And the only way you can do that is to pause a minute, to get out of your feelings and to get into fact, to get into data. And not the data that's manipulated, and not the data that you're hearing saying that, everything is fraudulent, because that is simply not true. There is absolutely zero proof that we now have widespread voter fraud in our electoral system. We do not. We absolutely do not. And by the way, I need you to also pay attention, because this is the way you sow discord in the very fabric of our democracy. By telling people and making them believe that there is something corrupt in the system. When people start believing in the system, that's when we start having issues. So even regardless of what side you're on, you're also seeing people on both sides saying, no, that's just not true. That's not true. And we are going to count every vote. So do not get in your feelings and in your emotions when you hear people saying, oh my gosh, we need to discard it. It's not true. It's not. When they bring you some facts, when they bring you some evidence, then you can start getting even more concerned. But I would be concerned about the fact that because we are not taking the time to pause and to really listen and to pay attention and to think, it is as easy for it to really undermine the very fabric of our nation, right? So we have to start to pause, y'all. The fight's not over. We're going to still have to have energy. We're going to still have to pay attention going forward, because our nation has been kind of broken open. It just has. None of this stuff was gone. It's just that now it's at the forefront. Yeah. And we're all tired. We're tired because of the pandemic. We're tired of wearing the mask. We're tired of talking about this stuff. We're just tired. Yeah. And when you get tired and don't have energy, your response isn't always what you want it to be. So you have to pause. And there is power in saying, I am not going to have this conversation today. I am not going to engage in this today. I am going to take a minute. I'm going to surround myself with people, or I'm going to take myself by myself. Whatever you need to get back to some level of center, so that you can then fight another day. You can show up for the people who need you to show up. And you can show up authentically and with strength and with purpose and with vision and with clarity. Because if you're all crazy, then you are going to add to the craziness around you. And that's not what you want to do. Mm-hmm. That's not what you want to do. And I just realized I didn't turn my little thing around. I wonder if it'll let me do it right now.
Sure.
Woo! Okay. So, see, this is what happens on live, y'all. So I just because my vote pen was backwards. I'm like, that's not right. I need to change that around. So y'all are gonna see something change on the camera. So it is what it is. So as we think about this, and as you look at what's going on, Jerry and I both are in this group Black women who love outdoor living spaces. And Jerry's about to get in trouble, y'all. She's spending so much money. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. No, but here's the real deal, right? And I was just having this conversation with another friend of mine probably a couple of months ago. You know, we had this whole movement for a long, long time of people moving to the suburbs. They wanted more room. They wanted more space. They wanted to get out of the cities. And then as commutes got crazy and the price of gas got high and all that, you started seeing this flocking back in as generations change, where you have people who really like that mixed use living, right? They like to have like the New Yorks and things, the retail on the bottom and living space on top. We're seeing a lot of that happening in Houston and Midtown. You started seeing people start to move back inside into the city because it was just closer, and people get tired of being in their cars all the time, even in Texas. And we love a car in Texas, but people get tired of being in their cars all the time. And so now we're seeing through all of this where people have had to stay home. We've had to figure out how to make our spaces more livable, so to speak. Now you're seeing this resurgence of, no, I want my space to be a space of peace.
Yes.
I want my space to be a space where I can enjoy my family and laugh and relax and sleep and enjoy and all of these things, because I'm having to spend so much time here. I need it to feel better.
That's it.
I need it to feel better. And so what you're finding is people are practicing the pause in their homes, and they're creating spaces that enable them to do that. And so part of having that power, standing in that power to practice the pause, is creating those spaces for yourself to be able to do that. Where can you go in your home, on your balcony? And it does not matter. This is one of those size doesn't matter, y'all. If you have a little postage stamp size balcony, it's still yours.
It's still yours.
And it's still an outdoor space, and it's still a place that you can create peace
Yes.
and enjoyment and just a place where you can think, a place where you can get on your phone and talk to people. You can read a book, you can listen to music, whatever it is. But taking that place, where can you go pause? Where can you go read a book, by the way, which seems to not be something that we do very often, given the kind of conversations I've had lately. Where can we, I'm just saying, Jerry, right? The times that we need to really refill our cups, because you can't serve from empty. So you need to be able to refill yourself, but you also need to be able to be in a space where you are continually learning. And that's where, you've heard me say it before, we have gotten intellectually lazy. We just want to like cut open the top of our head and peel it up and just have somebody dump information in. And the problem with that is, not only are you letting someone else put information in your head, you're believing everything they're saying.
Yep.
So, but if you go and get the information yourself, you get to evaluate it yourself. You get to read it. You get to comprehend it. You get to go have a conversation with somebody else and say, here's what I read. Did you get the same understanding that I got? We talked about that with voting. We talked about that with the census, right? This is not the time for you not to understand. When there's a proposition on the ballot, this is not the time for you not to understand. This is not the time for you to be embarrassed about whether or not you have challenges comprehending. Find someone that you trust and just say, I don't get it. Let's talk about this. I don't understand, right? There is so much information on the internet. You have to be careful on the internet, but there's so much information, so much access. Go see what you can find that will give you an opportunity to say, I don't understand this. How can I get more information and more detail on this thing where I have to make a decision? Because your decisions will ultimately impact you and your family and your friends and whoever. The decisions we make are not without consequences. And so it's important for us to stand in that power of just pausing, just taking a minute. Because we are all moving so fast. Even now, when we're all having to be at home, we are moving so fast that we very rarely take the time to take a minute. You know, I've worked in a lot of global companies. And in the US, we used to get so angry because it's like, well, we can't get anything done in the month of August because they're all on vacation. And they take vacation 2, 3, 4 weeks at a time. Or they're doing, like in France, I think it is a 35-hour work week and we work in 70, right? And so we would get all upset and irritated because, well, they're never at work. How can we get stuff done? They're never at work. Well, here's the deal. There's probably something in the middle that we don't do a good job of doing either. If there's one thing we have learned from, I think they're Gen R, I can't remember what they're calling them now, millennials and Gen R, is that desire and need, and in some cases, unwillingness to accept anything less than time, balance. And I don't know that there really is such thing as work-life balance. I think it's more work-life integration because balance changes all the time. You guys should go follow Ricky Hughes. She's a producer. And she talks about that, how in practicing the pause, and she didn't use these words, these are my words. In practicing the pause, she would talk about how her priorities would change over time, but that it was important for her to be able to establish a relationship and an interaction process with people that she worked with and for, and who worked for her, that they recognized that her priorities were going to change. And there may be a time when she's going to be there for 12 hours, 14 hours, 16 hours. And there may be a time where she's like, oop, I'm out. Because something happened with the kids, or something's going on with my family, or I'm not going to miss this thing. And that's the priority right now. And we have not given ourselves the opportunity to stop and say, wait a minute, priorities do change. They may change hour to hour. But because we don't take time to pause and stop and think, we just react, we get what we've got now. We get madness. We get irritation, we get frustration, we get all nuts, and then we get tired, and then we can't go to, we can't sleep, or we're sleeping too much, or whatever. But there is power in just stopping and just staying still. There is also a lot of madness in that too, because when you're still and you're there with your thoughts, there's a lot of stuff happening up in there, y'all.
I like what you said about prioritizing things, because you and I talked about it earlier, and you said, and then you made a joke about it. I'm spending a lot of money.
Yeah.
Which I get stuff.
I'm just saying, Jerry.
Don't come down, I get the hookup.
Right.
But I was planning on, because when my mom passed in last year, and we went out of town for Christmas, I was planning on doing a lot of traveling for 2020.
Right.
And then it all halted.
Yes.
And so what I was saving up for, and now that I'm home,
yes,
I realized I needed to pause, because I'm getting a lot of improvement work done that had to be done.
Yes.
But truth be told, I wouldn't have done none of it had I been traveling.
Exactly.
So there is a blessing in the pause.
Absolutely.
Because it causes you to prioritize.
Yes.
This was a necessary thing, but I thought traveling was going to be the necessary thing.
Right.
When really taking care of the house was the necessary.
Absolutely. And what I like about taking care of the house, that is your actual house.
Yeah.
Your physical house, your spiritual house, your emotional house, this house.
Yeah.
House has a lot of meanings. And so that power of the pause, if there's been so much that's been crazy and mad and ugly and bad through this pandemic and everything that's happening, but there have been some good things that came out of it. There are families that are closer. There are, and here's the thing, there are relationships that aren't as close, but there probably needed to be this happen so that people could make a decision to walk away, because they wouldn't have otherwise, and they would have stayed in something toxic. There are people that needed to leave jobs that wouldn't have left had this not happened. Had they not been furloughed, they would have stayed there, because it's easier to stay, y'all. That's just human nature. This is not judgment. We don't do judgment on the Rutledge Perspective, because see, we all got a boulder. We all got a log in our own eye, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes we need something to happen to force us to pause. That job to go away, right? That relationship to end. And that may be a personal relationship, a professional relationship, a vendor, a business relationship, whatever it is. Because I've had a lot of people who have their own businesses who are also having to walk away from some vendors or some service providers. Because you see, in times of crises, people's true colors show. Their real intent, their real character shows. And so there have been a lot of things that have been, as they say, culled out, right, through this pandemic. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's that shedding process. And we always, again, because we don't have a tendency to pause, we don't have a tendency to wait and stop and stay, we don't always take the opportunity to get rid of stuff we need to get rid of. We need to get rid of some things. Because again, as I've said before, if you don't get rid of some stuff, you don't make room for the things that are there for you.
That's true.
And so we hold on to these things because it's comfort. Even when something is bad, it's the enemy you know. That's where that saying comes from. It's the enemy you know. And sometimes it's easier to deal with the enemy you know than to worry about somebody new that you don't know how they're going to respond or how they're going to act or how they're going to impact you. And so it is imperative that we take advantage of these pauses. It is imperative that we give ourselves the opportunity to just be still, to just sit in the moment, to just say, you know what, I need a minute. And to be strong enough and courageous enough, even when everybody else is telling you, but I need you, I need you, I need you. You got it, you got it, you got it. You don't got it. You don't got it. There are very few things in life that we gotta do. Very few. And if it's not one of those, then you have a choice. You always have a choice. Even the stuff we gotta do, you have a choice in doing it. Therefore, we have, stuff that happens, right? So you have a choice, and don't let anyone pressure you into doing something that you know is not right for you in the moment. If you need a minute, take a minute. Because those who matter don't mind, and those who mind don't matter. Because if you don't take the time, if you don't force that, you're not going to be able to show up the way you want to show up. It's just not possible. Because at some point, your energy goes away. At some point, the desire and the focus and the clarity goes away because you haven't given yourself a time to just sit a minute. And sometimes that sit a minute doesn't mean, okay, so I'm going to, instead of doing this work today, I'm going to go do this other work today. When I say pause, I mean pause. Sit down somewhere and be still.
You said something about it, you feel guilty if people ask you to go. So I had somebody ask me to do something the other day, and it was been a story. And I said, to be honest, I'm not doing anything like that until in January.
Right.
Because I just don't feel a release to do it. And then they saw me through that video of me and my friend Pinky on a seesaw.
Right.
You had time to go do that. They said you had time to go be on a seesaw than you did to do this. And I said, yeah, because that brought me joy.
Right.
That's what I needed. That brought me joy. And it's okay to do that which brings you joy, especially if you know you're in a rough season. Everybody has to maintain their own self.
Absolutely.
And if I'm maintaining my sanity by staying away from certain things, or you maintain your sanity, you just said it earlier, it makes you become a better person when it's time to show up. Yes. Because if you're going to go fake, it's not giving them 100% of you.
It's not. And people can see that. I often, because I think I've said it on the show before. I mean, this whole being on camera is a new thing for me. I think I said it on my first show. This whole being visible, this being out all the time, doing lives and all that. Well, no. I just, I do it because I enjoy being with y'all. And I think it's important to get your message out and all that kind of stuff. But every time I take a picture, every single time I take a picture, I take a selfie, I'm like, ugh, really? And I have to pay attention. I do. And there are times when I really need to take a picture and I won't. And it's because when I look at myself, and I'm smiling, if it's not genuine, I don't keep that photo. And you can tell when somebody's genuine by looking in their eyes. And if my smile is not meeting my eyes, I know this is not the time. And I honor that. Or there are times when I'm like, okay, you need to just suck it up because you need to put this picture out there, right? Whatever this is, whatever the noise is, let it go and just take the dang picture and keep it moving, right? And so sometimes you got to tell yourself, wait, there is stuff that's bigger. There's stuff that's bigger. There's stuff that's more important. Let me come from a place of gratitude. Let me come from a place of peace. Let me come from a place of, this could be so much worse right now. And I am so thankful for the opportunities that I have and for what I am able to do in this moment. And just that change of mindset around gratitude and thankfulness has actually been proven. The studies have been done that actually changes the wiring of our brain. When we are thinking and being in gratitude and being thankful, it rewires your brain. And so it's important to give yourself that opportunity to think about the stuff that's good, to think about the stuff that's working, to think about the stuff that brings you peace, even if you can't do it right now. That's why those sound machines, right, work so well. People who love the sound of rain or love the sound of beaches or what have you. Those sound machines work at night to put people to peace because it puts you in a space of, right? I can breathe, I can think, I can just exist, I can rest. And so sometimes you do have to push through. Sometimes. Because we don't always have the luxury of pause. And there are more times than not that we have it and we just don't take it. Because our habit is to not take the pause. Our habit is to not slow down. Our habit is to not just take a minute. And so if we can then begin to build a habit that says, okay, something's not right. Let me just take a minute and figure out what that is. Because if it's just I'm in my feelings, then I need to just fix that and keep it moving, right? Sometimes. Or if it's something deeper than that, I might just need a minute. But you have to be willing to be self-aware. You have to be willing to give yourself the same service you give to your clients or your family or your best friends. You have to turn that around and give it to you to say, this is what I need in this moment. And be willing to tell people, this is what I need in this moment. Or I am just not there. Jerry and I talked about that too. This has been the historical wins that happened this past week were absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. And I was not in a celebratory mood. I just wasn't.
Not even on the first onset?
I just was not.
Good.
Now, part of it, and I'd said this on the show, there was so much craziness, and this is why I got to own me, right? There was so much madness. I was not watching anything live. I said it on the show last week. I'm like, I'm doing this show. I'm doing a couple other things. I'm going to bed. It was, my blood pressure and my nerves were so on edge. I had to watch it all afterwards. I just couldn't. And normally I'm the person I'm watching every return. I'm watching everything. Because that's Tim Russert's fault. I know I'm dating myself, but Tim Russert was on NBC. And there's a book called Big Russ and Me. It's about a autobiography. Well, it's not really even an autobiography, but it's really good. It's about him and his dad. And Tim Russert was the guy that was on TV at the very beginning with his whiteboard and dry erase marker, who would go through everything. And he was so excited about everything that was going on, you couldn't help but be excited. And so based on him, that's when I started watching every return, I was watching it all. This time I just couldn't. But here's the deal. I knew I needed to pause, because if I didn't pause and take a minute and just go to bed and rest and let my mind settle down, I was going to be in a bad space for a while, no matter what the outcome was. Because that's the thing that people don't understand. When I talk about thinking and pausing and getting information, there is so much stuff going on and so much craziness going on right now that no matter the outcome, we still got lots of work to do, y'all. We have still got lots of work to do. And so while the moment was incredible and celebratory and exciting, my spirit was in that spirit of, we got so much to do. We got so much to do. And I didn't want to take away from everybody else's celebration. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just letting y'all know, here's where I am. I'm not there yet. I'm living vicariously through y'all. And then I was out.
Yeah, because that would have taken somebody's celebration.
Exactly.
Because I told my sister, you're a buzzkill.
Yep.
I was going to go that way, and I got mad. But when you said that about the celebrating, because when I saw it, I screamed at first, and I was excited at first. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, I visioned this horror movie where they get away and they kill the man, and the man is dead, and then they hug, and they look, and I'm like, y'all ain't got time to do all that. And then all of a sudden, the man grabs the leg. Right. That's what I felt like. Wait a minute. We ain't got time to do all this joking and running around. Right. Or sending off memes and stuff. Right. Because this man is dead. You gotta stay focused. We gotta stay focused. Yeah.
And that's where I think, that practicing the pause, I knew, even deep in my heart, that the one picture that did get me, the picture of the old picture that was done of Ruby Bridges, right, when she was first going in to desegregate the schools. The little girl in the white dress, with the shadow. Yeah. And somebody took that and used the shadow of her with a picture of Kamala.
Oh, yeah.
And it wasn't until I saw that I was like, wow, how far we have come. Right? And when I saw little kids, little girls, that's what got me. It wasn't the grown folks. When I saw little girls of all walks of life, but in particular little black girls who were like, oh my God, we got somebody who's a VP elect who looks like me. Their joy, that then got in my spirit. And I'm like, you know what? I have to be joyful for them, because this is representation matters. If you can't see it, you can't believe it.
Yeah, you gotta have some. But you know what? I knew I was traumatized and didn't know I was traumatized when I saw the flag that night, and I cried, and I said, I can look at the flag and be proud. Yeah. Because before, that flag started representing racism to me. Yeah. Yeah. And when I would see the flag, I said, oh God. Yeah. And then that night, it looked like the flag was all new again.
Yes. And that's why we have to pause, you guys. You have to pause, but you also have to be willing to know you. You have to be willing to know you. You have to be willing to understand what fires you up, what gets you going, what pumps up your heart, what brings you down. You have to be really willing to do work on you and know who you are so that you understand when you're having these reactions to stuff, what is this? Because what happens is we have gotten not only intellectually lazy, but I think we haven't taken the time when we look at all of the issues with mental health and mental wellness and stress. We have not made it okay to take the time to say, wait, let me understand what this is. If you think about little kids, they have all these tantrums, right? And they're like on the floor screaming and yelling, and parents are like, what is it? What's wrong? What's wrong? That's the first thing we ask is, what's wrong? What is it? And sometimes they can articulate it and sometimes they can't. But we don't ask ourselves what's wrong. Once we get to be an adult, we're not asking what's wrong. Okay, I'm feeling all kinds of crazy ways. What's wrong? And it's that whole, you guys have heard me talk about the 5 why. What's wrong? Okay, well, why does that feel bad? Well, why? Well, why? It's the root cause. Getting to why something doesn't feel right. Why are you responding the way you're responding? Why does it feel funky? Because when you understand why it feels weird, then you can do something about it. You can go get some more information. You can go connect with somebody that makes you feel better. You can make a phone call. You can send a text. You can go get a piece of coconut cake, which, by the way, Cleburne's has coconut cake on Sundays, y'all. I'm just saying. I hate coconut. So, okay, I don't know that we could be friends. Because coconut is life, man. Coconut is life. Coconut is life. So, you have to be, let me rephrase that. It is important because you don't have to do anything. That's one of those words. Have to, right? Should, could, all those things that put pressure on us. It is in your best interest. And it is a gift you can give to yourself to practice the pause and to ask yourself why you're feeling the way you're feeling. You don't have to be in therapy, although I'm a big believer in therapy. Huge believer in therapy. And we as Black people need to get over the stigma of therapy. Go find a therapist, go get some help. I'm just saying. Okay,
you said something. Because we use other people as our therapists.
We do.
They're just as off. And they've got a lot going on for themselves.
Yes.
So,
and we wear them out.
You were right.
Yes.
It would be because this world needs therapy right
yes.
now. We've been through a lot. We've
been through a lot.
I have a quick question to ask you though. When
yes.
you said you couldn't get excited
coconut
at that
cake.
Time. When you couldn't get excited at that time,
yeah.
Is it something, a flashback? I mean, because you were happy, but why
yes.
couldn't you? Is that something wrong that you were projecting ahead?
You know what's interesting? That's part of it because that's the way my brain works. Mm-hmm. I very much am an empath, so I very much absorb other people's energy, and I've learned that over the years. And I also, the old people used to say you've been here before. Mm-hmm. Right? And this is going to sound all woo-woo, y'all, but I'm just telling you based on my experience. And there are things that have occurred that have brought me back to things that I said when I was very young, very, very young. Like I used to say when I was young, like I'm talking elementary school young, oh Lord, every great power has fallen. Please let me be gone before that happens to the U.S. Well, we're in the middle of that, right? I won't call it vision or anything like that, but I just have this sense sometimes that something just wasn't right. And I actually did talk, because I do have a therapist, and I actually talked to her about that. And one of the things she talked about was, the thing that is coming up, even in this celebration, even in this fantastic moment, because again, I'm doubly proud because the woman's an AKA. So, and I'm an AKA ski-wee. Legacy, thank you very much. Mom's a golden. So there was so much pride in that, divine 9. She went to an HBCU. I mean, there were so many barriers broken. And as I was talking through this, it also, I think there was a flood of just racial trauma. There's been a lot of racial trauma that has been brought forth in the last 4 years, right? The idea of a life not mattering simply because of the way you show up every day. The idea of, now I'm to the place where, and you guys know, I'll drive home and see my mom. She lives, and it's an 8-hour drive. And I like driving by myself. It gives me a chance to listen to podcasts and really feed myself and think. And now I'm like, ooh, does it make sense to do that? Can I rent a dog somewhere, right? To be in the car with me? Because I have some concern about being by myself in my car on these back roads in Texas. And so I just, there is a level of trauma that the world has experienced, that and I say the world because this has been the world has experienced a level of trauma. And in particular, there is a level of trauma in the U.S. for people of color and for Black women that has been generations long. And so I think for me, it was kind of a culmination of all of that. On the one hand, this amazing threshold that was crossed, this whole ladies wear your shoes because there's glass all over the floor, right? Because the glass ceiling has been broken. Yay and nay, right? So this is beautiful and this happened and we're going to stand in this and stand on this. And we are going to believe that it's going to be different. And I'm a trust but verify kind of girl. Okay, so we've broken it, but is somebody up there trying to put all the shards back together? Or have we really busted it in a way that can never be replaced? And that's just a function of my particular experience, right? Not everybody's had that experience because we're all individuals. And so there's some people who are like, no, it's gone. The day is open. This is great. And I have to stand on their excitement because that's not where mine is, right? And I do that. I take their excitement. I'm like, you know what? Yeah, this is great. This is awesome. And then my mind, because I am a risk management type of person, that's my background. I'm a numbers person, that's my background. I'm an HR person, so that tells you a lot about people. So all of these little things that make up part of my experience and who I am give me pause to say, whoop, okay, I see it and it's real, but, right? It's the but that's the problem.
And somebody would think that's being a pessimist, but
absolutely.
It's absolutely not, because
it's being a realist.
And then when I hear people say realist too, I used to say, well, you have no faith, but I done passed that too.
Yeah.
Because when you said that, you and I are so opposite, but yet totally alike in so many ways, because when I was watching it, the fear came on me, what if somebody assassinates? What if this happens? What is that? Because you do realize, the pause gives you an opportunity to realize there's still a lot of hate in the world.
Yes.
70 million people still voted. With all the trash we went through, they still was loving it.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of animosity still in the atmosphere. So I don't think that's been a pessimist. I think, and in the word realist, I guess it would be. Yeah. You have the reality to know, wait a minute, I've been here before.
Yeah. We've been here before.
We've been here before. So so most people would think that's negative. That's not negative.
It's not. And that's why the pause is important, because in that pause, I also had to really examine. I had to give myself a chance to be upset and down and honestly confused. I mean, I was like, this doesn't make any sense, because I wasn't even upset. I was numb. I was completely numb when it happened. When I woke up and that was the news, I was numb, which is unusual for me.
Numb that they won?
I was just numb to the whole thing. Yeah, like, okay, I see that, but there was like no sensation, which is unusual for me, highly unusual for me. And so I had to sit with that. And that's why the pause is so important, because it made no sense. And I know myself well enough to know that didn't make any sense. Something's going on. And I also know myself well enough to know that I like to live in a glass half full kind of world, in a world of possibilities, in a world of, I am a woman of faith. I believe in possibility. I believe that we can get there. I believe that if you speak truth to power, it's going to happen. I believe that things, if you pause and you listen, you will know where you want to go. I believe all of that with every fiber of my being. And if that is true, then something else was wrong, and I needed to pause to figure out what that was. Because that frustration and irritation and numbness was coming from somewhere. And in order for me to move through it, I needed to understand it.
It's discernment, and you had it since you were a little girl, because you said you've been having these type of weird feelings, and you are a little weird. You are. But most people that have discernment and kind of can see some things in the spirit, you're not running around saying you're a prophetess.
No.
But you have that gift, and I know that's in you. So that's what it is, because those that are really kind of in the spirit right now, it is a little uneasiness.
It's a little uneasy. Yeah. It's a little uneasy. It is fantastic and amazing and wonderful. And it's not over. And so that's not to say we need to stand in fear, because you can't operate in fear either. You need to get out. I need to drive to Odessa, right? Mm-hmm. We cannot stop living our lives. I am not promoting that. We have to live our lives. We have to continue to bring our best to people, bring our best, because you get this one life, y'all. You get one time to go around once. We don't get another one. We get one time. And so we need to take the opportunity to live it the best way we can, and to understand that no one group, as my brother said, we're not monolithic. We all, across all groups, have difference of opinions, difference of perspectives, because our experiences are different. And so understanding yourself and where you stand gives you a foundation upon which to hear other people's perspectives and other people's ideas. When you are grounded in who you are not afraid to get information that's contrary. And that's what happens. We get afraid that the information we're going to get is going to tell us that we're wrong. I would much rather find something that says I'm wrong and know that than get surprised. But that's about fighting fear and fighting pride, especially in leadership. Most leaders don't want to know that they're wrong because that's a pride issue. I don't want to have to stand up in front of people and say I'm wrong. I don't want to have to go and change a due date of a project. I don't want to go and have to stop a project because I failed to get enough information in the first place. Because see, then I'm admitting that I'm not perfect. I'm admitting that I'm wrong. I'm admitting that I had a failure. Well, guess what? Some of the best leaders are the one that can stand up and say, oh, wait, stop. Time out. That's not what we need to do.
Yep.
That's not what we need to do. And this is why we need to change. There's power in that. Pausing. There's power in that. Just stop a minute. And even when you're having to move quickly, right? Because sometimes you can be quick and approximate, and sometimes you need to be slow and precise. Mm-hmm. But if you're having to be quick and approximate, the power of being quick and approximate is also being flexible. Because if you're moving quick and approximate, that means you need to be flexible enough to change. Because you've had to move so fast that you may not have had all information. So that pause is important. It's important for you as an individual. It is important for you as a leader. It is important for you as a family member, as a spouse, as a girlfriend, boyfriend, significant other, parent, auntie, uncle, whatever. That pause is important. That pause to ask yourself why. Just like that little kid that you're saying, why are you so upset? Why are you screaming and yelling? What is it? Did something bite you? Did something hurt? Think about all the questions we ask when a child is hurting. We do not, as adults, give ourselves that same gift of asking why, or what is it, or what can I do? And that pause gives us the opportunity to do that. That pause gives us the time to say, wait a minute, something's not right. Let me figure out what it is before I do something crazy.
And that pause can work negatively too, because that's what the con man knows, that when he puts the seeds of the suspicion out there, what you thought was so realistic before, you're now saying,
wait a minute. Yeah.
Could it be?
Yeah. It's dangerous. I'm telling you, I'm good by myself. I'm very self-aware. I tend to be very analytical about what I've done and how I've done it. I mean, there's stuff I think about today that happened 30 years ago. I'm like, oh, I should have said. I'm one of those people, right? So you do have to be careful in the pause, because you can wind yourself up. You're taking a pause to calm down, and you can wind yourself up and tie your tail into knots in a pause. So when I say pause, you really got to pause. You got to calm your brain down. You got to calm your spirit down. You got to take a minute. And when you start feeling yourself wind up again, oh my gosh, well, what if it happened? What if it's true? What if it's not? What if it's... Stop. And one of the things I even found for me is, especially when it's really crazy, physically putting my hands up and saying stop. Mm-hmm. It's like that mind-body connection is real. That whole stop. Because if you think about it, everybody laughs about it, but when people just put their hand up, like, everybody knows what that means. Mm-hmm. And everybody pauses when they see it. So do that to yourself, right? When you're practicing the pause, just put the hand up. Stop. Just stop. Take a breath. Let's regroup. And let's address this in a way that makes some sense, right? Mm-hmm. So in this spirit in this time, more now than ever, we need to take a minute. We need to pause, because it is a very precarious time. Right, wrong, or indifferent, political or apolitical, it is a very precarious time. There's going to be some very interesting behavior that happens over the next couple of months. Very interesting behavior. We have to start paying attention, because there's also a lot of distraction going on so that you're not paying attention.
Yes.
There's all of these extra, social media sites, because people are irritated and upset, and so they're going to go to some other site. Those just become echo chambers, y'all. That's what those are. They are echo chambers. I don't like what's being said over here, so I'm going to only go talk to the people that believe and think and do the same thing I do. Okay, well, good if that makes you feel better, okay. But understand the danger in that. Because if you're not hearing anything but what you believe, then you don't get something that challenges that, then you may not be getting the truth and getting the full picture. Because people are just feeding what you already believe. Now, what you believe may be true. I'm not passing judgment on that. But how do you know? I tell people all the time, how do you know what your truth is if you've never heard anybody else's? How do you know? If you've never read another book, if you've never read a contrary opinion, the best arguments are made by those people who know both sides. And in fact, know the other side almost better than they know their own. I think it was Nelson Mandela that said, don't raise your voice, improve your argument.
Oh, when you speak, you don't.
Mm-hmm. Don't raise your voice, improve your argument. How do you improve your argument if you don't know what the contrary side is? That's the power of people that did debate. I wish I had done debate in college and high school. I never did debate. My dad was a debater. But there's power in learning how to look at both sides. That should almost start being a requirement. I think they should start requiring debate in school.
I think they should. And when you said about looking at both sides, because I had a lot of people hit me up this week about mentorship as far as radio is concerned. Mm-hmm. And I started thinking about that thing. And I was thinking about even with the difference of opinion of media. Mm-hmm. And you have some who are opinionists, and you have some who are journalists. Right. And I was watching one that I don't like, but I watch it anyway just to see what's being said and how they're doing things. But they said on there when they were making some lewd comments that were not true and false comments that are not true, the reporter says, you know what, I got to cut this off because this is not facts. This is not true. Right. So when you talk about that, because I remember when I first got into going to church and everything, I would say, my pastor say, and a friend of mine says, what did the Bible say? Have you read the Bible? This? I read my pastor. And that's when I started getting the clue, like, you're right, I got to check this. And some of this stuff wasn't real. Right. And so you have to fact check, because I think we are in a world where we're not reading and fact checking from reliable sources. Right. So how do you know what's a reliable source? Right. Well, and I think that's the challenge, right? I think go pick up a book. When you pick up the book, go research the author. What has the author said? What has the author done? Is this author a researcher? Is this this fiction? Because you may look at something and think it's a biography or think it's a historical novel, but it's fiction, right? So you have to, for lack of a better word, you have to be discerning. You just can't take everything at face value. And you have to go read. You have to go read. Pick up a newspaper. Pick up several newspapers, right? Pick up the Washington Post and the New York Times and the New York Post and the Wall Street Journal and the Financial Times. Go get them all. Or better yet, go subscribe to them online, and then you can just pull the articles. Yeah. Do something like Harvard Business Review. They don't have a political bent. They're talking about stuff like leadership and all that. So pull the Business Review. Go look at sites like SHRM, the Society for Human Resources. Go pull some of their articles. Go look at NACD, the National Association of Corporate Directors. Go look at organizations and what they are saying, and look at their about section, right? Look who's on their boards. Look at what positions they have taken, if they've taken political positions. You can go and find out almost anything today about what people have said and where they've been and what they've done. And then go to some of the fact-checking sites and say, hey, I read this. Is this true? I think every news station now is like, they've got a truth meter. Hey, if you see something you're not sure about, send it into our truth meter. So there are fact checkers everywhere, y'all. Yeah. So if there's something that has come good out of this pandemic and out of the situation that we've been in for a while, is the truth still matters to most people. Yeah. The truth does still matter to most people. And there are folks willing to call out when it's not truthful, right? And so we need to stay focused on that, and we need to stay true to that. And we need to be willing to do the work, because that's what's happened. We haven't been willing to do the work, because it does take some work to go fact check things and go find out what's going on. It takes some work. It's not easy. It's not easy. And because we do have things that are at our fingertips these days, we always got our phone. We can just Google something, right? We can order online. Even me, I was trying to order something online the other day, and I actually had to go in and pay for it. I was kind of irritated. Like, what? You mean I can't do it online? I'm like, really, Laurel? Really? What day are we in, right? And so we've gotten to the place where what's become normal is fast. Yeah. If it's not fast and quick and immediate, then we got a problem.
Well, finding out information and taking a pause is not fast. Checking the facts is not fast. Using data is not fast. And because it's not fast and we are not patient, we end up going with the thing that's easiest. And easy is not always true.
True.
So I encourage all of you this week to take your power and practice the pause. Practice the pause. Pause before you speak. They always say that. Pause before you speak, because once words are out of your mouth, you can't take them back. Pause before you speak to someone else and before you say stuff to yourself, because those are powerful too. The words we say to ourselves are just as powerful. Pause and evaluate what you're feeling and why. Ask yourself why you're feeling what you're feeling. Pause and look at data. Pause and ask additional questions. Pause and find out what's feeding you, what you're allowing in. And if necessary, make a change. And if not, keep going. But you won't know the answer to that, and you won't know why you're feeling what you're feeling. You won't know what you need to do going forward if you don't give yourself the opportunity to just take a minute.
You know, it was a lot of people, evangelicals, who were prophesying that Trump would win this election and how it was going to happen and this was going to happen. And it was totally off. It wasn't the way it happened. And they never came back to retract what they said. They were like, okay, it's fraud, because, and that's what's keeping some of the stuff alive, is because you don't want to be wrong.
Right.
And so now you're going to make it another story. But there was one pastor who did come back and said, I got this totally wrong. I thought that's what the Lord was saying. But you just said that that's the trait of a leader, because we're not going to get everything 100%.
We're not.
You're not going to get it right. We're human beings.
Right.
But the right thing to do is when we get it wrong, you come
say
back
that.
And say you got it wrong. And let's try again, because if not, it's just going to lead to what we're in now.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And what is that old saying? Methinks thou dost protest too much. If you've been doing the wrong thing to get what you want, and then you don't get what you want, you're going to accuse the other people of doing the wrong thing because you didn't get what you want.
Oh, wow. That's real.
So, just saying, y'all, think about that. If you've been doing wrong to get what you want, and then you don't get what you want, then you're going to accuse the other people of doing wrong. Because that's the only way you couldn't have gotten what you want, is because basically they did the same thing to you that you were doing to them.
Yeah, because decent people wouldn't think you're getting stolen from, because that's not what you're doing. So you're not thinking that evil, you know?
I'm just saying.
Wow.
So just be discerning, people. Just be discerning. Don't believe everything you see. Don't believe everything you hear. Don't believe everything you read. Go make sure you're reading a bunch of stuff. Go make sure you're listening to a bunch of stuff. Go make sure you are understanding a bunch of stuff. Get a number of different perspectives. Fact check. The truth still matters. Qualifications still matter. All of those things still matter. Human decency still matters. It's all still matters. We may be seeing evidence or potential evidence that it does not, but there are 74 million people who said, yes, it does. And actually more than that. Because we also have to be very cautious that we don't contribute to the continued divide by saying, if you were one of the 70, you automatically discount everything that means me. And I'm talking to me too, right?
What does that mean? Say that again?
So just because there were 70 million who agreed with what many are going to say was, and including me, I've said this before because we speak the truth here, is that 70 million people said that I don't matter because of the way I show up.
Oh.
That's what that speaks to. But here's the truth of that. All of those 70 million people don't think or believe the same thing. There are probably some of those 70 million who said, you know what? I understand everything else and I'm concerned about everything else, but the most important thing to me is taxes. There are people who've done that. I know some of those people. Right? And so everything else for them, yes, they were concerned and they're going to be active about it and they're going to do something, but the tax thing or the money thing was the most important thing for them, and they believed that this was the way to do that and to protect that. Yeah. So we can't just, on either side, we can't just start using a paintbrush and contribute to this divide by saying, if you were in the 74 or if you were in the 70, this is who you are and this is what you mean, because that may not be true. That may not be true. We are not homogeneous. We are not monolithic. We are not the same people. We are not all the same people. We do not all think the same way. We do not all believe the same things. We do not all treat people with disdain and hate. We do not. We all make decisions based on our personal experiences. And so we can't automatically assume that just because someone is on the other side, that they automatically discount me. Because there are more people on both sides that are closer to center than are on the fringes, that are closer to agreeing on the big things than they are disagreeing. And so I think by understanding that it is not as, while we are absolutely divided, that there is probably more common ground than we are willing or able to understand in this moment, because we are all still very raw. Many of us are still very concerned, very scared, very frustrated. And when you're in that feeling, you got to practice that pause, because in that moment, you cannot hear or understand. And so we need to, now more than ever, hear and understand so that we know what to do, because we need to use that understanding to push towards action, because the lack of understanding leads to action that has unintended consequences that we may not be ready to face. So with that, I'm behind by 5 minutes. Thank y'all. I appreciate it. I love it being here with you guys on Tuesday. Thank you for tuning in. Help me get to 5,000 by year end on my podcast, the Rutledge Perspective Podcast. Thank you for tuning in, Texas and California. Kansas City.
Springfield, Decatur. San Antonio, Texas.
Ooh.
Dallas, Fort Worth, Austin, Washington, D.C., Denver, Los Angeles, California, St. Louis, Camaba. Do you know that?
I don't know that one.
Okay, well, we're going to look it up.
Okay.
Frankfurt, Maine.
Awesome. And then I know we probably have India. We had Germany on. So our international listeners, thank you for being here too. I got a Morris Williams. I don't know where he's listening from. Thank you, Morris, for being on. So thank y'all. We'll see you next week. We're talking about speaking truth to power next week. Tune in. We'll see you then.